All right, let's just jump right in, shall we? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something that is honestly equal parts fascinating and downright chilling. We're doing a deep dive into a beautifully crafted case study of corporate drama, specifically clip 024, famously known as the silent group chat. Now, if you've ever thought, just swiping delete on an app or clearing your chat history makes something vanish into the ether, well, this explainer is absolutely going to change how you look at your digital footprint at work. We're looking at the actual mechanics of a corporate cover-up, the psychology behind private ridicule, and the literal, undeniable power of digital forensics. It's a bit of a slow burn narrative, but man, it teaches us a massive lesson about proof, accountability, and leadership.
Section 1. The Forgotten Digital Footprint.
So I want you to picture a standard, modern corporate office, right? Glass walls, quiet elevators, the usual hum of fluorescent lights. Our story actually kicks off during a totally routine IT inventory. Some dusty, retired company phone gets plugged in, powers up, and by pure accident, an old, dormant group chat just springs back to life. It was called Fast Track, which, sounds harmless enough, right? Like some channel for the overachievers. But as IT audit specialist Jordan points out right away, people will meticulously scrub the phones they use every day, totally forgetting about the hardware ecosystem they leave behind in a desk drawer somewhere. Jordan realized pretty quickly that old devices are usually way more honest witnesses than the employees themselves. The tech almost always outlasts our human attempts to hide the truth. And what Jordan finds on this old phone is just staggering. This supposedly dead chat channel was actually the primary crime scene for a massive corporate cover-up. The target? A strategy lead named Maya Carter. Now, Maya had been dealing with a lot: stolen credit, fabricated KPI reports, really mysterious project delays. She knew in her gut something was wrong, but she just didn't have the proof. Well, Fast Track was that proof. It was the exact blueprint. It was the missing link showing that her struggles weren't just bad luck, but a highly coordinated effort to push her out of the company. Which brings us to Section 2, Jokes as Hard Evidence. So how did this go from alleged gossip to hard, undeniable proof? The screenshots Jordan recovered are pretty brutal, to be honest. You've got this former rising star Ethan, a senior manager named Clara, and a few others just relentlessly mocking Maya. In one really arrogant exchange, they actually laugh and call Maya too documented to destroy. So they're openly admitting she's incredibly competent, right? While plotting to completely undermine her. They felt invincible. They thought this chat was a sealed vault. But like Maya says here, their boldness only existed because they honestly thought nobody else would ever read it. Now, once they got caught, Ethan completely panics and tries to spin the cruelty. He tries to claim it was all just, quote, venting, sarcasm, and banter under pressure. It's the classic defense when toxic behavior suddenly sees the light of day. But the IT audit completely shatters that defense. This wasn't a place to blow off steam. It was literally a highly specific execution schedule for career sabotage. And this is where Maya's counterattack is just brilliant. She doesn't waste time arguing about their tone or whether their jokes were in poor taste. No, she goes straight to the hard data. She actually points out that the exact dates of their so-called jokes in the chat lined up perfectly with the exact dates her promotions were magically delayed and her project credit was stolen. Honestly, it is an absolute masterclass in handling workplace gaslighting. You don't fight the emotion, you just map their jokes straight to the actual corporate timeline. Moving in to Section 3, the Wall of Complicity. Because as the audit digs deeper into the logs, we realize this wasn't just a couple of bad actors letting off steam. This was a highly structured, insulated conspiracy spanning multiple departments. Look at this breakdown. We've got Ethan, who was essentially the architect of the whole thing. Clara was the shield, using process excuses and manipulation to cover their tracks. Then, shockingly, we have Linda from HR, who they actually refer to in the chat as legal fog. And finally, this mysterious member known only by the initials RH, who acted as an external cleaner. Let's zoom in on Linda for a second, because this is a devastating realization for an HR professional. Linda discovers that Ethan and Clara didn't respect her as a strategic partner at all. The logs show they literally just viewed her as manageable. Their legal fog. Linda honestly thought that by staying quiet and compliant, she was protecting the broader company from a messy conflict. But really, she was just making herself completely complicit, providing the exact cover these bad actors needed to secure their own positions. And what about those mysterious initials RH? Well, Nina, an incredibly observant executive assistant, cracks this wide open. She links RH in the logs to an external consultant the company had previously hired to manage optics after internal crises. So this group chat proved the sabotage wasn't just some internal squabble, it was deeply connected to external reputation management. The company was literally paying a cleaner to hide the smoke while completely ignoring the executives who were lighting the fires in the first place. Okay, Section 4, collapsing the cover story. So the evidence is mounting, and the tension is sky high. In steps board executive Victor Hale, and his immediate instinct is to sweep it all under the rug. He tries to formally classify this fast-track chat as just informal, private gossip, totally irrelevant to official company business. But Jordan systematically dismantles Victor's defense by tracking their digital breadcrumbs. Let's look at the workflow. First, secure file links were being actively shared right inside this private chat. Second, they were informally coordinating edits to actively sabotage Maya's work. And third, those sabotaged files were then uploaded directly into the official company's systems. This quote right here from Jordan is absolutely the nail in the coffin. The chat was not beside the process, it was feeding it. It completely destroys the wall between private cruelty and official corporate action. You absolutely cannot claim a chat is just personal venting when it is functioning as the literal operational pipeline to alter official company documents. Now here's a twist that I think is incredibly relatable. The audit actually uncovers a junior employee who was also stuck in this chat. She wasn't participating in the sabotage, but she didn't speak up either. She admitted she stayed in the group simply because leaving would have put a huge target on her own back. But out of pure self-preservation, she had been secretly saving screenshots the entire time. It's such a strong reminder that you don't actually have to be a fearless hero to expose the truth. Sometimes just being terrified enough to keep the receipts is exactly what brings a corrupt system crashing down. Which brings us to the climax. Section 5, the final smoking gun. The walls are completely closing in on them now, and Clara tries one final, desperate pivot. She tries to blame everything on just, general workplace pressure. Everyone vents when deadlines are tight, right? But Nina digs deep into the archives and finds this one single damning instruction from Clara to Ethan. Buried deep in those logs, Clara writes, "Make the delay look procedural." That is a direct, undeniable command to weaponize company policy against Maya. And Nina absolutely hits the nail on the head here. As she points out, instructing a colleague to fake a procedural delay, that isn't blowing off steam. That is literally drafting the cover story. There is absolutely no coming back from written proof of premeditated corporate sabotage. With that, their entire defense just crumbles. So, what does this all mean for us? Well, it brings us to this critical definition of the digital footprint. It's that undeniable, archived trail of informal communications that outlive our deleted memories and ultimately expose a company's true operational culture. Because of this incredibly thorough investigation, the complete fast-track export wasn't swept under the rug. It was officially entered into the board's permanent audit file. The truth was finally officially documented. If there's one massive takeaway to summarize the ultimate lesson of this explainer, it's this. Culture is not the shiny poster on the wall or the uplifting speech leadership gives at the quarterly town hall. Culture is exactly what leadership tolerates in their private, supposedly secret channels. In the aftermath of all this, Maya actually used this undeniable proof to push for real systemic policies, rules that actively protect employees who step forward to report digital harassment and internal sabotage. Which leaves us with a fascinating and honestly kind of terrifying question to wrap things up. If your company's private group chats, the ones on those old phones in the bottom drawer, the ones people swear they deleted, if they were audited today, what culture would they actually reveal? Would they match the official company values, or would they tell a completely different story? Something to think about, right? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Remember to keep your records, stay observant, and never, ever underestimate the power of your digital footprint.